A warm welcome to the 71st Rajagiri Roundtable Conference. Some of you are new to this event. So what I would like to say briefly is that we have been conducting this event for the past 5 years, more than 5 years now. This is the 71st event. And the idea is to always discuss the challenges, threats, and opportunities that face this sector from time to time. As we all know, education sector doesn't exist in a vacuum. It has to reflect the changes taking place in the society, and it has to actually change with the changing trends in the industry and what is taking place around us. So education cannot remain isolated from the rest of the society, from what is happening in our families, job scenarios and all the areas. So children are considered to be synesthetic. That is, they have the ability to make meaning from moving between sounds, images, their body, space, and written text. So this is an idea which is explained beautifully in the new book, Making Sense and Adding Sense by Bill Cope and Mary Calansis. Both of them are actually trainers, educators, and they have come out with these two books. And now the challenge is we have gone through 5 phases of the learning over the years. That is, from the ancient period, we have the oral tradition, and later on this writing came. And then we have the printing, which was there for at least 200, 300 years now. And then, of course, computer age came, where computers were used for a particular purpose, not as part of the learning process, but something which has to be learned because you may need that application somewhere. Then now we are rapidly moved to the cloud, or whatever you can call digital age, where everything happens through some digital platform. Every activity happens through some kind of a digital platform. Now a child is able to send digital audio message, visuals, and text on the same device. So now you don't require another device. You just need a mobile device, or you need a laptop or whatever, tab, and you are there. You are live on the class. So that is the kind of change that has taken place. And in the past 1 year, I think there has been so much change in the applications. So learning is a cognitive process, while communication is said to be a literary process. So that these are all ideas which I took from that book, which was discussed. So we all know the impact of artificial intelligence and machine learning. So much of jobs are not going to be there. So many jobs are going to become redundant. In fact, I attended another session of CTOs and CIOs, where it was said that they are replacing jobs with software applications wherever possible, because they can't scale up at this stage when all of them are working in different parts of the country or elsewhere. So whatever new requirements are there, they simply add into some new application or some new algorithm they create, and that is how it goes. So there is so much change going to take place, and robots and all these AI and ML is going to make a hell lot of a change in our jobs and even our life. So we have identified 4 areas where we'll be discussing in the coming 2 hours, and basically that will be about how the present pedagogy is suitable, whether it is suitable for the future workspaces, what kind of changes are going to take place in the workspaces, what kind of changes are required in the existing digital pedagogy, because it came all of a sudden, and there was no planned effort into planning. Proper planning was not possible in the last 1 year. But now I think we have reached a stage of maturity where we can actually integrate a lot of new pedagogy and new learning methodologies into the digital medium. So we'll be able to discuss that also. And also we require an entrepreneurial learning system, because we are going to face this VUCA, that is volatility, uncertainty, then complex nature of life, and also ambiguity. So how to overcome that? So that is only possible with an entrepreneurial mindset, not just to become an entrepreneur, but to stay successful in your career. So we'll be discussing all these areas, and to begin with, we'll have what is the kind of, I'll discuss, or I will describe the panelists as we go by. There are so many panelists, experts from various areas. So to begin with, we'll have Mr. Arjun Hari, who is co-founder of Woody Data Tech. So he'll be talking about what are the kind of changes that are anticipated in future workspaces, and how we are ready to cope with that. So over to Arjun Hari.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Srikumar. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, yes.
So, yeah, very good evening to everyone. So I hope you, your near and dear ones are in safe and in good health during these tough times. So before I start with, I would like to really thank the team at Rajagiri for this wonderful opportunity. Since there is a lack of time, like 7 minutes, it's too less to really talk about anything at large. So I'll just touch upon two important attributes which I personally feel is define the realm of how we work in the next coming decades. So to touch upon the first point, I think most of us over here in this panel or the audience who's listening to this would probably be aware of the various articles and reports that's come up in various and put up by various organizations like the United Nations, the World Bank, the Gartner Research, and the likes, where they talk about how automation really take up or consume or kill most of the jobs in every industry for that matter. Although if you look at these reports, you can see that more or less, though they differ in terms of timelines and numbers slightly, but they all say one thing in common, that in this technological space, what's going to happen is that at least 70 to 80% of jobs in most of the industries are going to be replaced by automation, and this automation will be augmented by artificial intelligence. Before we get into an argument of if that's actually going to happen, or if that's even a realistic estimate, it's to understand how automation can take up a job. I think that basic understanding is something that most of us lack. So I'll give you a deep understanding of how automation might take up a job in a language that you possibly understand, not from a technical perspective. So if you are to go, if you're an organization, you're trying to hire a person, what would you do? You would probably put up a job posting saying that this is the job role that we have, these are the kind of tasks you're supposed to do, and these are the kind of skill sets that you might require. Because you, for some reason, know that these skill sets are required to complete a complex task, which makes up the job. Now imagine somebody is going to automate a particular job, for that matter. Now, if you're trying to automate this job, the person who's trying to automate would also do the same thing. They're trying to break down the complex task into subtasks, and these subtasks, they would identify what is that intelligence that's required to do these subtasks. Okay, so you would build those intelligent modules, and these modules would together work to do these subtasks. And because of these subtasks is what you try to actually bring up and do. Is there something wrong with my audio?
No, you're audible.
Can you hear me now? Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. This is how automation actually happens. Okay. So now let's just get into the facts as to how would this happen otherwise, right? So if this is how automation happens in the real world, now let's just understand what it means. Now let's go into a statistic. Like let's assume, for example, there are 100 jobs in an industry, right? There's just 100 jobs in an industry. And if you look at these 100 jobs in a particular industry and look at the reports, they say that 70 to 80% jobs will be taken up. Now let's go for an optimistic estimate saying that no, not 70 to 80%, only 25% of these jobs are going to get automated, right? Now with this 25%, now look at what I've just told you before, how this 25% of the jobs will be automated, right? You would have skill modules, intelligent skill modules, which are basically software codes which are developed for automating this. Now, what can happen is once these 25% of the jobs are wiped out, these skill modules can be used in combination to automate the rest of the 75% jobs by building smaller modules which might be relevant for the tasks, right? Also, once this is already built, these skill intelligent modules can be used in other industries and verticals which are completely unrelated to wipe out jobs even in that space. So one-time effort to build an intelligent skill module means that it is going to replace a lot of tasks and jobs, and there are going to be huge job losses in industries across verticals. So this is how automation actually takes place and how it's going to affect. But all these reports actually talk about this happening by 2030 at scale. But we know that most of the countries, be that India or underdeveloped or developing countries, they really don't have the infrastructure to adopt and implement these technologies at scale as of now. But this is definitely going to happen in the next decade or next to next decade. That means that this is definitely going to happen, just a matter of time and just a question of when. And when we're looking at next decade or next to next decade, we are also thinking about a kind of a generation who is probably in school now and is going to join the economy then. And it's going to be very uncertain for them, right? And to add to this uncertainty, these reports also talk about the life cycle of jobs or roles. Previously, if you look at probably 10 to 30 years back, you could have told with utmost certainty that you want to go to a particular job or a career, because jobs and careers used to have at least 30 to 40 years of a life cycle in which they existed. That started shrinking. And what is currently told is that every job would only exist for 3 to 5 years. That means that if you were to tell a 5-year-old that this is the kind of job that you should do, by the time they are 10, the job is no more. And if you're going to tell them at 10 another job or a role, by the time they're 15, it's no more. So it's like the jobs are going to come up and vanish so quickly with the advancements and what artificial intelligence and automation is doing, that it would be very uncertain to really say with a certain amount of certainty as to what you want to do as a job or a career. So that is one of the biggest aspects of what this fast changing technology space is going to bring about. That is the first point. And the second point is basically the gig economy. Now you know that you don't need to really be attached to a company to do a job. You can really post yourself out there as a freelancer on like platforms like Fiverr, where you can get a freelancer for as low as $5 an hour, to platforms like TopTal, where you charge about $200 or $300 an hour. So you have an entire plethora of options where you can work as a freelancer. It gives you the opportunity to work at your pace, work at your time, take a project that you like, and put up a fee that you feel is ideal. But this also comes with a challenge that when this is being done, you are essentially putting yourself at a lot of risk. That means if you are a data scientist working in an organization, you would just be handling data. Now, if you put up yourself as a data scientist on a freelancer platform, it means that you should also have the ability to sell yourself. Like once you've done, what you usually do is if you're an organization, you give it to the business team who handles the client, and they are the ones who probably talk to the client, negotiate the deals, like close the project for you. But right now you are the one-man army or the one-person army who's basically supposed to do everything. So although you call yourself a freelancer, to actually survive in the gig economy, it's pretty difficult because you need to have a lot of skill sets to actually stay relevant, right? That is one part of the story. Another part of the story is, imagine a person like me who's done 20 years of education, like 2 years of kindergarten, 12 years of schooling, 4 years of undergraduation, and 2 years of post-graduation. And then I come up and post myself as a freelancer on a platform saying that I'm going to be a data analyst. I might possibly be bidding for a project against a 15-year-old who is also posting himself as a data analyst. And he might have probably started this work 2 years before I did. It means that he has more feedback from his customers, he has better rating, and there are higher chances that he wins the bid over me. And he can also charge lesser because he doesn't have the cost of education, right? Which I have to add and compensate for. So when you're in a gig economy, what happens is you are actually fighting with a lot of people and the boundary is large. And to add to it, there is one more factor which is kind of fuel the entire process. It's called the work from home. Right now, you can be anywhere in the world and you can simply get a job. Even in our case, when we used to start previously hire people, we are situated out of Kozhikode. It is not a happening place. It was really difficult to get talent to move into the office space and work together because we thought working together in a single space is more relevant. But once COVID hit and we went for hiring afterwards, we opened it up for everyone. So we even hired a person from UK. So we were like, okay, now it doesn't really matter. We are open to anyone. So we have talent from across the globe working from anywhere. It means that those jobs which were certain because of a geographic limitation is now open to everyone. It means that you're fighting with the global workforce, global talent at every day. And it also necessitates that you don't really need to have a degree to do a job, right? So to wrap it up, I would like to summarize by saying that, see, we are in a world where we are driven by uncertainty, which is driven by automation, and there is a large scale competition that's happening because right now you don't have geographic boundaries. Like nobody's limiting, no companies are limiting or saying that you need to have a degree. You don't need to have a degree. We have people who don't have degrees and who are being paid equivalent to postgraduates in our company. So there are a lot of things, you're fighting with a lot of people at the same time. So it's really relevant to understand who you are, like what is your underlying skills. So instead of talking about negotiation skills for a person, you should be talking about their listening skills or their comprehensive skills or their problem solving skills together, which makes a good negotiator. So we always talk about the superficial skills and we forget what's underneath. So it's always good to make people understand what they are so that they can stay relevant over time, because all these skills are what makes up a job role. So if you don't really understand who you are and what you're good at, it's going to be difficult to survive because it's going to be a very dynamic world, and agility to learn and unlearn based on your skills is what is going to really define if you're going to survive or not.
Great.
So
that's great for that opening remarks. Actually, you raised some very important issues. One is that we are going to live in a very uncertain world where the job that you are doing now will not be there in another 3 or 5 years' time. And the gig economy poses very important challenges which we are not yet equipped for. So I think those are very valid points, and we'll be dealing with that in the as the session goes forward. So we'll quickly go to Dr. Winnie Johari, and thanks, Arjun. So we'll go to Dr. Winnie Johari. She is in education advocacy in Microsoft in education. So what I would like to ask her, because till last year, all these Microsoft or Google were just another option before the education system, the ecosystem. But now it has become part of it. Unless you, without these Google or Microsoft or whatever the platform, the education will not take place. So how has Microsoft transitioned from being just one of the options before the education system to a very integral part of it? And what are the foundational principles that you have applied so that your products or services have been suited for the requirements of the schools?
Good evening, and thanks so much for inviting me to this forum to be able to share my thoughts with you. So Microsoft has been passionate about education, and our mission is to empower every student, every teacher and institution to achieve more. We focus on building the 21st century skills in students. As my predecessor rightly pointed out, that it's a complex world, it's an ambiguous world. The technology changes are so massive, and the jobs of the future are not even invented as yet. And many new jobs will be generated as well. So it's not about job losses. I think the nature of work will transform. Therefore, the competencies required to be successful in those jobs will transform as well. And Microsoft focuses on how collaboration can be fostered, how personalized learning experiences can be created in the student community, how we can enable voice to the students, how can accessibility be possible, and how we can transition to the hybrid models. How do we power students so that their reading abilities, language abilities can be enhanced? How can they do well in mathematics? And if you allow me, I have a small presentation where I can share some thoughts with examples that will make it more clear as to what I'm saying. And our core principles are about building communities of learning. It is not just you learn through the training programs or courses, but you learn from each other. You learn from best practices, from failures. There is also this aspect of lifelong learning. So there are multiple careers that one has to be prepared for. And these are, and accessibility and personalization are also two very important. Equity of access are core principles that we adopt in everything that we do in the realm of education. And I just quickly share my deck, and please let me know if it is visible. Can you see it? So basically, we would say that Microsoft in education, its offerings are unique. Our work is very unique because its foundation is laid on 4 pillars, which is the part of education transformation framework, which is a holistic approach to bring about change in teaching and learning. So leadership and policy, professional development of teachers, exposure to pedagogy, powerful devices that enable outstanding learning experiences. Third pillar being student and school success, where we talk about building skilling for students, building inclusion and accessibility, and fourth component being intelligent environments. Where you can power your decisions. The teacher can be empowered with analytical skills, with developing solutions that make a lot of sense for the student community. So if we talk about, especially in the context of teaching and learning and pedagogy, I think it's not just the technical skills, but social emotional learning, social emotional skills are equally important. The LinkedIn report says that along with the technical skills and thousands of jobs that will be opened up in the realm of AI, cloud technologies, data sciences, social emotional intelligence will play a key role, which is about empathy, which is about tolerance, which is about working with diversity, listening skills. All these are very important. And Microsoft technologies are such that they enable and overcome the barriers of language capabilities, voice enablement, AI features. If someone is not comfortable speaking or writing, the AI features can be powered. Instituting global collaborations for students, no matter which area, village, district. You can visit the finest robotics labs in the world. You can talk to agricultural scientists. You can go to Antarctica for expeditions. And for language as well, very, very powerful tools are available for free for teachers, where they can, like in India is a country where so many different languages are spoken. So while I might be presenting in English, so you can see that there are subtitles coming in Hindi. Enabling this, I was talking about the language capabilities, and you can see the subtitles that are emerging here as I speak. Imagine in different states, you can have local languages, whether it's Marathi, Gujarati, Telugu, Tamil, and look at the power that a teacher can exude, and you can make students comfortable in their own languages. And there is beautiful mentorship that is possible today. That students want to embrace different careers. You can use online channels to bring in the finest experts to the classrooms. And we have worked with thousands of teachers across India, and Krupali is one of an amazing educator who have embraced pedagogical innovation and have not only transformed themselves or their schools, but thousands of other teachers. That's where I was saying that communities of learning is a very, very powerful way. And teachers like Rupali, thought leaders like Rupali, not only influence their own ecosystem, but work on global projects that help build these capabilities. Another aspect is language learning. For example, we may want to learn foreign languages, or in India, for example, multiple schools. Reading is a very big challenge. How does a teacher devote individual time for empowering reading? And we have a wonderful tool now available in Teams, where you can get analytics on the reading speeds, spelling mistakes that may happen, and it gives you dashboards so that over the months and weeks, the teacher can monitor if your reading speed has improved from 30 words per minute to 60 minutes or so. I don't think so we'll have a time for demonstration here, and I'll skip this, or I can just share this for a moment.
Let's go! The study of Earth's landforms is called bicycle geography. Landforms. The study of Earth's landforms is called bicycle geography. Landforms can be mountains and valleys. They can also bicycle geography.
Imagine that you could have insights on how a group of 50 students or 1,000 students in a school, what are their challenges, and you get dashboards as a teacher and look at the progress that you would have made, and that's not possible. So you're, as a teacher, you're augmenting and using technology to your advantage to make improvements in your students' learning. Likewise, translator, this text to speech, speech to text, and then the language translation. Let's say I just select this text that I have on my system on my slide. I just right click on the translator and I select translation, and you can see that I'm let's say from English, I want to convert it into Kannada, or let's say I want to convert it into Gujarati, for example. And with the click of a button, my entire text has converted into Gujarati. So this is how it simplifies the learning experience. And then different children may have dyslexia or visual or learning impairment. And a teacher can use variety of tools. And we have learning courses for teachers, pathways where teachers can be empowered. And along with it, for example, gamified learning experiences where students can collaborate, learn to code across multiple subjects, and code gets generated on the side. So there is this beautiful video of a 7th grade child who has used Minecraft for learning. And she's not only trained teachers in India, but in Finland, Russia, and she even has her own blog and a channel, YouTube channel as well. Amazing experiences for learning. And it's not just about teaching on PowerPoints on a video session, but it is about collaboration. It's about using mobile technologies. It's about how you can as closely create a classroom as in a real world and power the students with the 21st century skills. And we have these wonderful community on Microsoft Educator Center, where you can access more than 70 courses and pathways for learning. We have also created artificial intelligence curriculum from grade 8 to grade 12 in English and Hindi, and wonderful assets for skilling of teachers and students if they would like to build up competencies in the realm of cloud and artificial intelligence. I think I would just like to stop here in the interest of time. And what I can say is that there is so much that can be done when teachers get exposed to the right technology skills, and sky is the limit.
Okay. So great, Dr. Vinny Jari, because you gave us so much insights into how the technology can be leveraged by the teachers and students to, um, utilize the technology and gain new knowledge and also skills. So it's amazing, and actually, we'll look forward to your views later in the program. And we'll quickly go to Revati Sundaram from Next Education, because basically digital learning poses a lot of challenges with regard to content. And we have, of course, found what Microsoft has done, but there are so many other companies now in this digital learning space. So what exactly are they doing? How are they meeting the challenges of remote learning? And what is the kind of content and the evaluation assessment that you do?
Okay, good evening, sir, and thank you very much for having given us this opportunity to be a part of this great forum. So, all of you know that they've been existing in this digital field from 2007, and they've created a niche for themselves in the digital teaching learning world. So now we are all migrating to technology because we have to handle the digital natives. So I'll tell you how we are doing it and helping the teachers and students to perform better on the digital learning platform. So first of all, the digital content. So we have to ensure that when it's an online teaching learning, the content for our students should be really good and understandable, and it should be keeping them engaged. So when we are having a face-to-face collaboration in the class with the students, that is so much of challenge. So you can think how it will be when it's going to be online. So the virtual learning reactions are usually not seen. So we cannot understand whether the student has understood what we are teaching, whether he is confused, because we cannot get a reply for him. So then how do we ensure that the environment is engaged and the student is learning and achieving the utmost from whatever is being taught in the online classes? So how to make class alive and interactive? It is a very, very $1,000,000 question, I should say. So why should teacher present students with content using different methods? That's what we do. Because all of us as educationalists, we know that different children have got different learning styles. Some are auditory, some are visual. So the goal of teaching is learning. So students must be taught in a way that they can learn. Secondly, we have to ensure that student is engaged. One of the biggest problems in online transaction is distraction. If you're in a class, you know the child is getting distracted, but online it is very difficult. So how do we keep the child engaged? So we have to use different kind of contents to keep the child engaged. So what are the different kinds of contents in the online environment? First is a text. So try to give your student some kind of a note that he can read, or maybe a paragraph or a few lines. You can save it as a PDF and upload it, and he can download it and read it at his own time. Secondly, you can have images. You can either, you get free images that depict the content that you are making, or you can create your own content with a tools like Canva, Adobe, Spark, Infographic. We are using various other tools to create these kind of images so that it has also got the 3D effect, and children are excited about going through these images and learning. And next comes the audio. Just image would not be sufficient. You would require audio to be recorded and posted along with these texts. So the teacher can explain these, in a short video concept, or we can have podcasts uploaded based on what is the text available. This is being done in the LMS of Next Education. Then we have videos. Video can be used to further engage our students. We find either a suitable video online, or we can make our own videos and upload it. We can also have games which we have. So, there are two. One is a game-based learning, like for English, suppose you are teaching language. You can have Scrabble, you can have memory games, you can have charades. So these keep the children involved. So they actively participate. So learning environment is, fun-filled, and they learn better. It is interactive and more student-centered. We are also using gamification principles for making the teaching learning process interactive and engaging. And finally, we have the internet. So So I remember when I was doing my MBA recently, because during my times we didn't have computers and internet and all that. So when we asked for the content, our lecturer said, internet is your text and it is examinable. So you have that advantage in online teaching. You can ask children to go and they can, get content beyond what we can give them. Yes, they'll be learning a lot more and understanding these concepts. Maybe they will come back tomorrow and ask us a question which we should be prepared to answer by getting ourselves equipped accordingly. So where can we get this digital content? One, we get the relevant content online, or we create. Most of our content is created on our own. We are not using any online content, excepting in cases of something has recently like come up like artificial intelligence. Now we require the time to do it. So maybe we are using some existing audio or video which is available and suitable according to an age appropriate. Now that's about the digital content. The next is the assessment and evaluation part. So these, as an educator, we all know assessment and evaluation is not the same. Assessment is grading a person, whereas evaluation is not grading. We are basically trying to help the child move smoothly through the teaching learning process. It is more a kind of formative or diagnostic assessment. But the assessment which is being given is grading him, that he is good, he is moderate, he needs to improve. So this is the basic difference between evaluation and assessment. Now, speaking about online courses, most instructions provide final quiz at the end of the courses, a passing score accomplished by a certificate. But do you think that is enough? It is good for a start, but that is not enough. So we probably have assessment works best when it is ongoing and not episodic. It should not be a one-time, like you give an assessment and it is done with. So you cannot assess a child like that. So this way you can show the student's progress in the course and every milestone that he has achieved. So in keeping with a learner-centered approach, assessment is a part of learning teaching process embedded in class activities and in the interaction between learners and between the teacher and the learner. So what are the different types of assessment in the online learning? We all know it is a formative, summative to begin with. But what should be the rubric of this? First of all, that student should be motivated. Then he should be engaged and he should continue achieving. Then he should be tested on a continuous process, and there should be an ongoing feedback. If we don't give feedback to students, it is no use assessing and testing them. So how can someone give a feedback? So like exams and quizzes, they give an immediate feedback. But that is not that effective. To make it effective, we have to give specific individual student feedback, which has to be accurate, timely, and meaningful, so that the child knows where he has to work and where is his strength and where is his weakness. So what are the assessment online practices? One, we are linking our assessment with the learning objective. Every lesson has got a few learning outcomes and objectives to which the assessments are linked. Now, the assessment should be linked to every part of the course. It is, as I said, not episodic. It has to be at the beginning. When you're starting, you can have a quiz or some short questions to see what is the knowledge level of the child before starting the concept what you want to teach. Then throughout the course, you can have online continuous assessment like worksheets. Then you can have these role plays, art integration. All these are various kinds of ongoing assessment when the course is on. Finally, when you have completed your course, you can have different kinds of assessment like a questionnaire or graded assessment, questions inside the videos, and discussion posts. Now you must be wondering, how can we do through discussion posts? Sometimes we are not satisfied with this, low level testing and quizzing, because it is too weak to assess the critical thinking. As ma'am was previously saying, we are creating children for future. So we have to install all the features which are essential, like creativity, collaboration, communication. So if you want to do this, we are going in for this discussion posts. So the student gets a better learning outcome. Now, what are the other alternative assessments of activities? You can have show and tell. It again improves their communication skills. It makes them confident. Autobiographical sketches, so they know how to write. The writing skills are improved. Then other activities like the drawings, charts, photographs, articles, story writing, blog writing, all these also can be used. We are also using response to videos. So learners watch a video and respond with a written analysis for specific questions that are posted based on the video. We also have collaborative projects. We get the children into groups and ask them to collaborate, promote the creativity and produce one of the above products as a team. So teamwork is also imbibed here. How should I form my questions? Now, this is a very, very critical question. We cannot simply give some set of questions and tell children please answer. Question paper making is an art. So outcome and learning activities are generally created with an eye towards moving children from lower order thinking skills to the higher order thinking. We all know that we always move from the known to the unknown. So to accomplish this, usually as educators, we turn to Bloom's taxonomy of educational objectives. Self-assessment also gives very good opportunity for child's learning. Reflection and self-assessment are essential components. If you want your environment to become more or learner-focused, then it should urge learners to assess themselves. So we do give kind of self-assessment questions where they come with this is an exceptional technique which increases the confidence level of a child, and he gets that satisfaction. Okay, yes, this is where I was, and this is where I am, and this is where I would like to go. So, but for this, you have to be sure that you incorporate your expectations and of self-assessment at the beginning of your course. And also provide learners with a reflective diary where he can record his reflections, his opinions, attitudes, feelings, and encourage them to register this at the end of each session. So finally, I would like to give some considerations and tips for assessment. As a part of our planning, we need to make choices about the type of questions. Any activity with feedback is a potential assessment. So what matters most is that assessment is relevant to the objective and goals of the course. It is appropriate to the level and scope of course content, and it clearly outlines the students via logically organized instructions. And the assessment should test the competency and not memory. It should not rote learning we are trying to test, not what he knows, but what he can do. And make sure that assessment helps students develop a sense of confidence. And finally, at the end of the course, make sure that it covers all learning outcomes, including the course. So at Next platform, we have all this. The curriculum aligned content is trusted content written by experts in their subjects and curriculum specification. Curriculum combination of text, interactive graphs, videos, 3D models to keep students engagement high, and up-to-date content with relevant examples and case studies. We have a robust assessment toolkit where the practice center for students is available, extensive assignment bank of automatically corrected questions to save teachers time and give students that strength and where they need to improve. Then additional feature offering lab support, internal assessment guides, and examination style questions. We have adaptive testings also where a child moves from one level to the next and then to the next. And using digital learning tool, he enables its personalized learning. Insights driven platform. This makes the students aware of where they need to focus their efforts by showing them their strengths, enables personalized feedback from teachers to students, empowers teachers to differentiate their teaching based on the class needs. So this is what we are doing at Next Education, and we hope to do better in the coming years. So that is it from my side, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you, Revati Sundaram. Actually, we understand that you are taking the normal education to a next higher level, where you have so many new assessments and even new ways of teaching and engaging children through various activities. So I think you are going at least a few steps ahead from the conventional learning mode. So that is actually very interesting and also very insightful for us to know. So we'll quickly go to from here. We'll quickly go to what the schools think of the changes that are taking place. Now, it is almost a year now that the digital learning has happened, and Now we have reached a maturity level where we should be able to take this forward in a much better way. So now we have so many good examples from Microsoft and Next Learning that they have shown. So we'd like to get the view of Mr. Moti George Jacob, who is the director and principal of Tashi Namgyal Academy in Sikkim, about what is the challenge that the schools still now face with respect to the deployment of digital technology for learning.
Okay, thank you, Srikumar. All of you can hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I will quickly go through, the challenges are all cliche because I think, all of us know what are the basic challenges which relates to the digital pedagogy part of it. But I just like to highlight a few things. I like also related to the area that we are located. We are in Sikkim. It's a little backward state. It has got big challenges as far as infrastructure is concerned. So the first, again, in a cliched answer, infrastructure is the biggest problem in the sense that, broadbands do not reach all my students' homes. It does not even reach all the children's home. And, we have a lot of hostel students who are now in very far-flung villages, unable to reach them, and many issues of that nature. But I would focus more on what we have done as a solution, right? That's more important because that's what we need to share. One of the things, I did was community service. We have sent out teachers to a location. For example, we have got hostel students coming from pretty backward area. We have sent teachers there, made them camp there, in conjunction with the local community, stayed there, spent some time with them, and reworked or reoriented themselves into the current curriculum. Because missing out on education is terrible, really. So, with the help of the local village heads, the students getting together, and in the process also helping out certain amount of government school children in that area. That is one. Second is, there is no shortage of platform. Microsoft, we just saw a very good demonstration. We have got these options available today. We have got Class. There is a new software available, Class, which helps you to teach digitally. But the problem is the bandwidth. I have gone into a number of programs, and I realized ultimate aim is to get the program or get the package which has got the least bandwidth requirement. Most children are actually on a mobile network, right? And if you use mobile network, we know the limitation of mobile network. We have not reached 5G stage at any level. So what is required is that the content that they give you should occupy the minimum bandwidth. Therefore, the children is able to attend the classes, attend certain, when you test somebody, for example, right? The lady before me is wonderful, Mrs. Revati, she gave a wonderful solution as far as the testing part of it is concerned, or assessment part of it is concerned. But it can only happen if you have an assessment system which is low on bandwidth or possibly, on the cloud based, so that the child works on it, it goes to the cloud and it comes back to you at its own time. So that is one technical solution. But we also did a certain amount of distribution of digital hardware to children who do not have it. We have got a lot of scholarship children in our school who just did not have even a mobile at home, a smartphone. So we did manage. Unfortunately, there's one drawback, one big shortfall in the country. We don't have good education-oriented tablets available at a very reasonable cost. So, if you want to say a class 5 textbook being given to a child, if you have a very simple tablet available, I'm very sure it's possible to make a very cheap one, give it to that person. He's on the net and he's able to study on his own, or that he's got connectivity, he's able to do. So we did distribute certain amount of, but the cheapest ones we could get was, Lenovo and that kind of stuff. It's quite expensive for the school to put. Coming on to the next part of it, right, is the human limitation. Now, all these digital classes, it ends up becoming like a binge watching on TV. You're watching a serial, you're so happy with it, you're binge watching for 12 hours. It happens to some children, but that's okay. But imagine every day, 4 to 5 hours, child watching on a screen and possibly a mobile. It is humanly not possible to keep that child focused on the classes. You may say any amount of it in classroom, it is not possible. What are we talking about the digital screen? So, there is a possibility that children are not really attending, they're not focused, they're diverted, right? So what we have done is we have spread the timings over a day. You have a period in the morning, 2 hours, 2 periods, given a gap of 4 or 5 hours, the parents possibly working, somebody comes back from the shop where she's working and he comes, spend some time, then again a 2 hour session. So spread it over a day. Maybe it's worthwhile. Use your Saturdays, even the Sundays. They're not averse to it, but we need to spread the utilization by students so they're not continuously on. Okay, my God, there are 8 periods to go, 8 periods. It won't work, really speaking. So that's one solution we found very effective amongst the children. Of course, in this, I also would like to bring out what Arjun was making in the beginning. Losing a lot of jobs. Let me tell you, it is right to a large extent, but it is not going to happen the way we believe it's going to happen. I mean, look at the hiring of Google. 50% of the people are non-technical guys, right? The people with creativity, people who are going to solve problems for you, create a screen which is so user-friendly to you. So there are a large amount of jobs out there which is not digitally oriented. There is going to be a lot of jobs. I mean, I'm just listing out psychologists, NGOs, government jobs, environmental experts, doctors, psychologists, and these are all people who are going to be assisted by digital systems, but they are not going to be people who are digitally great, people artificial intelligence and things like that. This is a psychologist who is not going to be replaced by an artificial intelligence. I mean, it is possible, theoretically possible, but I don't visualize it really happening. And that person, a counselor has to be a human. I mean, these jobs are not going to go away, really speaking. So to believe that everything will go away and we don't know what's going to happen next 5 years is also a kind of misnomer, and we need to look at it in a broader perspective. So what does a school do? School provides that emotional quotient, input to the child. Child is speaking to his neighboring child. He's having a little fight with that other boy over a pen that he wants to share. There's going to be a pull, push. Teacher is trying to interfere, trying to talk to them, say sorry to the child. I mean, there are so many human skills where a child is losing out if you're focusing only on digital education, right? So what I have done, we did in the last year is, we decided, okay, on a Monday, so many sections will come in the morning for 3 hours. Come, spend some time together, talk to each other, go back. After some time, you had a slot of 3 hours for another set of children and a 3 hour set for the senior students. So we split the entire day into three 3 hour sessions with a gap in between. Therefore, the density of children was very low in the school, but they were able to interact with each other. And you'll be surprised, the place where they ran at the first opportunity is the sports ground. Every child, without exception, ran to a sports ground. So to say that digital is or digital solutions are the ultimate, no, it's not what it's going to be. Jobs are going to go to people who are emotional skills are very high, emotional quotient is very high, able to deal with other human beings, able to create solutions. Creativity is applied. So I think there is a lot of area, a lot of bandwidth where digital education alone cannot provide. It is also required to provide in the social studies, EVS, your environment and things like that. Coming to the other issues, one is textbooks. Textbooks are the biggest, I would say, restriction to open education. I think, it's like they actually, lay down so many topics, subtopics with photographs and things like that and content. Children and teachers also believe that is the way to go. That is the sequence way to go. Instead, most of the boards, like I have an ICSE school, we have a board which lays down the learning objectives of each topic. It lists of A, B, C, D. The teacher should be skilled to ensure that there is no textbook involved. The moment you involve textbooks, digital learning goes for a 6, because then you're trying to cover, have a textbook in your hand and try to cover everything. And it is not possible to cover everything in a textbook. And therefore, I think, textbooks should take a backseat. You must identify topics, and like Ma'am Revati made a mention, it has to be then given to a child as a challenge to come up with a solution. Innovative question making, this will actually give the kind of solution. And I have done it a lot to our school. We not succeeded fully, but I think we are about 30% in, where we have forced teachers to come up with creative examples. It's like showing a photograph, and you say, okay, what is wrong with the photograph? Or coming out of the solution, a broken machine, you show it and you say, what should be done to it? And things like that. There are so many ways that we can actually go forward. And there are also certain amount of establishments which providing the kind of questions to give this upgrade to children. So, and therefore, I come to the next part, testing. And Mrs. Revati talked about a very beautiful solution. Okay, what approach should you take? But how do we do it on the ground, right? How do you ensure integrity of assessment? For example, we did a first test, knee-jerk solution was Google Form. Most stupid way in hindsight, but rampant cheating. Everybody got 100 out of 100. So when we did an oral test, for example, we did an interview, we found big disparity in what they achieved and what they are capable of. So testing modules are not very easy to come by. Testing modules are not very effective to ensure that, the way that GMAT test is taken, okay, you cannot really cheat. Very low scope for teaching. It uses a lot of artificial intelligence and stuff. It doesn't, there are not many solutions to instability. Therefore, the solution is what, again, Mrs. Revati said, to come up with intelligent or very interesting, innovative questions or, writing a session in the thing. The next part of it, I felt, was the teachers themselves. Our teachers not skilled enough to handle all these challenges, right? Seamlessly moving from a classroom to a digital class, and then you bringing a subject, screen sharing, using the applications available, carrying out attendance, some boy is disturbing, somebody is putting a nonsense on the screen. All this has to be managed by a teacher, which is not an easy skill set to come by. So therefore, I think, on the B.Ed courses, the colleges where teachers are taught, they need to be given skills to ensure that, they're able to overcome these small little hiccups which is part of the current way of teaching. The aspect of, one thing which biggest challenge with digital learning is creativity part of it. The NEP talks about, experiential learning, right? You touch, you see, and you see a plant grow or a seed. Today, there are softwares will come up with it, but there's nothing that can replace exactly how much, how a plant grows and how a thing happens. Therefore, and I think even writing skills, writing is very important to exercise the kind of neurons that you have to ensure that you are able to do creativity. And digital autocorrect, artificial intelligence is damn good in the sense that it's very good in terms of giving out solutions, but it is not a very good route to take for a future person, where he has to face the world, create solutions for problems which is otherwise not there, which is not there in the class. Yeah.
Okay, great, Mr. Moti.
This is what I thought. Yeah, thanks.
So you raised some very important points. One is the socio-emotional development of the child, and also the preparedness of the teachers for this transition, the low bandwidth requirement that should be there for each app. So I think some of these are addressed by Google. That's what Dr. Vinny Jari was chatting on this show. So we'll quickly go to Krupali Sangvi, and we'll just find out how exactly the schools are prepared, what kind of preparations are required for the schools to smoothly run for the next academic year.
Thank you so much, Sri Kumar sir, and I'm thankful to Rajagiri Foundation for giving me an opportunity to speak over here, not only as a TGT computer science educator at Udgam School for Children, Ahmedabad, but right now I'll be talking in three contexts. I'm being a Microsoft Innovative Educator expert and using some technologies into my classroom since 2012. I had been Google Educator. I'm still a Google Educator Group Lead in Ahmedabad chapter using Google technologies in the classroom, as well as National ICT Awardee in 2017, wherein I received National Award for Teachers for using ICT for Innovation. So completing all the three, combining everywhere the combination of technologies with effective pedagogies. So I had earlier attended this session of roundtable conference wherein we detailed about how teachers are coping up with the digital pedagogies. So as a master trainer, I got a chance to train teachers. I'll be very quickly sharing my screen with you all. We had a discussion on how teachers are coping up with the pedagogies. I hope my screen is shared with everyone. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, sir. So we were talking about so many technologies from Microsoft. Obviously, we have been using technologies at our own school also. We have seen the amount of difference. I'm talking about the difference which has created not only in terms of technology, but the difference which have created in the learning outcomes, which is very important for any education system. We have to thoroughly focus on the learning outcomes before planning our lessons. So here I'm going to talk today about the appropriate pedagogy of the digital natives. When we are talking about digital natives, as I told, I received my National Award of Teachers at a very young age, and probably when I was just experimenting my pedagogies into my classroom. So I never realized that whatever experiments I was using a puppet show method to teach class about the generation of computers. I was using a method wherein My students were enacting that I am a mouse, I am a keyboard, and all these things, and that would become a effective pedagogy during this award nomination. But I realized one thing in the entire scenario of my work experience of almost 15 years, that pedagogy does not go alone and ICT does not go alone. If we know ICT tools, now our teachers are well equipped with ICT tools. So I think this is the right year, this is the correct time when we need to tell them that whatever knowledge you've gained of ICT tools in the last year, now we need to combine it with an appropriate pedagogy. So for that, I have suggested some changes in my presentation over here. So the first change which I suggest is a change in the lesson plan system. So now earlier the teachers were making a lesson plan where they were just focused on the learning outcomes, the objectives, teaching tool. And when you ask about the teaching tool or the teaching aid, they will probably write PowerPoint presentation, or maybe they will write whiteboard usage. But now we need to make a little bit of change in the lesson plans in order to have appropriate pedagogies in the classroom. The second thing is content delivery. Content delivery cannot be used right now in the current scenario. We are still expecting that 3 more months may go like this only, or maybe I don't know how the days would, how we will survive in this particular COVID pandemic. So this content delivery also matters. It should not be a one-ended communication like a video calling tool, but our classroom should be a multi way of communication. When I say multi way of communication, I mean to say that when you are delivering a lecture, it should be an inquiry-based classroom, it should be an experiential classroom, it should be a game-based classroom. The third thing we can focus here was assignments and projects. The assignments and projects, whatever we are planning, now we have a tool in our hand. Now we don't have to take a lot of parents' permission for using internet at home, or we don't have, like this is the right time when you can give any type of experiential learning project in your classroom. So 24 CLD integrated activities, I will showcase few of them how I have integrated it in the past year. And probably I must say that in the past 13 years, I was not able to integrate this much of technology and this much of 21st century learning design in my classroom when I was going to a traditional classroom method. But when it became a remote learning method, I found that the students have got immense number of immense number of tools in their hand right now. But our journey and our challenge as an educator today is to use those tools and technologies given by parents in a positive, constructive manner. So how did I do that? Also, I'll share here and educate on. Yes, definitely. Your teachers are not IT teachers. They should not be a computer teacher to say that technology could be used for good. They can be a maths teacher, science teacher, English teacher. But overall concept should come that technology always should use for good and for the benefit of the community. So as ma'am, Binijori ma'am has shared here that there are Microsoft technologies, a lot of technologies we are also using at our school. But I would like to right now focus on education.microsoft.com. This is a free tool wherein a teacher could log in with the Microsoft account, and there are a lot of training courses. You know, I have seen many schools are searching for trainers. I have been a master trainer. I have trained around 10,000 educators across India last year. This year, I have conducted 3-4 NCRT trainings also. But I think, why are we going for a trainer? When we itself can explore these courses, now everything is there. You have developing systems with organizational leadership. You have more than a just a game. If esports are given, you can ask your PE teacher to go to this course, understand this course. Everything is self-paced tutorial. Even if you go here, you can see beginner level course, intermediate, advanced level. So this is one of the platform, that is education.microsoft.com, wherein any teacher, whether it's a civics or whether the teacher is teaching politics, civics, maths, reading, writing skill, all ages. So you can choose your best platform to learn, and at least your teachers can start learning on their own pace. So this was one of the things I wanted to discuss. The second most important thing, as a national ICT awardee, I would prefer the Diksha platform by CBSE and CIT NCRT. This is also an amazing platform where we can see that CBSE has laid down some training courses on competency-based education modules. So if we encourage our teachers to go for appropriate pedagogies, and as for the new NEP coming up, they should get themselves right now ready for the experiential learning courses. So these are some of the courses they can go from Diksha module. The another thing, yeah, they can just go to Diksha and they have to just log in with their own account, and they will find courses by NCRT, CBSE, and even if you scroll down, you will get here NOIS and states or union territories. You can select your own state and you can get materials which are published by states and union territories on Diksha platform. As well as if I talk about mixed reality, we were talking about artificial intelligence, mixed reality. This is going to cover for education. So I would like to talk about more of how mixed reality. Yes, sir was talking about social and emotional learning. I have tried this mixed reality in my classroom, and it was it was a success in terms of when I brought a small cube. It was a small merge cube of a paper art, a zero cost solution. I just took a printout, make a cube from an art and craft classroom, stick that printout on that, and I scanned it with my phone. And the entire solar system was out of my screen, where students were seeing the solar system, the planets moving around. And I remember that day when this particular technology was brought into my classroom, it made a difference into that particular class. So there's a various pathways where our teachers could explore and they can try to learn more. Now they know how to access technology, they know how to use technology, but now how to use technology for their own subject. That is very much, I'm not covering AI because AI is such a big concept, but yeah, this is what I was talking about, augmented reality. You can see a simple muscular system. Now children have tablets in their hand, they have even phones in their hand. So they can just go to that app, scan that particular lesson given by the teacher, and they can experience the 3D models on their screen. And it will be a lot of creative, playful way of learning. You can see this from the entire dissection part. So it depends on how, as a leader or as a thing. The another thing ma'am explained was Minecraft in education. So in Minecraft in education, there are 150 plus hours of syllabus given over here. If I just go to class resource, I can find lesson plans on math, science, and this is again free. You just have to log in with your Microsoft account or an Outlook account. You can see here the subject kits are available for science, math. A teacher just have to search for the lesson plan and execute it in the class in the form of a assignment or a homework. I will quickly move through. I have already shown Educator Center, and this is how our school is doing it. I'm from Udgam School for Children, Ahmedabad, Gujarat. And recently, CBSE has given us a project on art integrated learning. So you can see that we used the tool Wakelet. Last year, I trained teachers to use Wakelet, but then I thought that just training on an ICT tool will not help. How to use that ICT tool for an English maths teacher, that will definitely help them. So I asked teachers to come up on Wakelet, created a course basis for them, and you can see here how teachers have used this platform. Let me just open one of the classroom and show it to you. The project was all about how Chhattisgarh and Gujarat, about the students have to create, and you can see the instructions are written over here, where advertisements were made by students, art integrated. Just let's scroll down and let's see how different language related activities are submitted by students. So this is how we used ICT tools. This was all about cultural heritage of Chhattisgarh, and the theme was given food, clothing, festival, art, architecture. And students were supposed to collect it for maths, a pie chart, and a graphical analysis of the data they collect. For English, it was only a paragraph of 120 words of the above analyzed data on the maths chart. For science, so basically, I'm talking about a project which is integrated interdisciplinary projects. Many such projects took place with various platforms, and yes, Kahoot. I would like to talk about the element over here. The element which I talked was the, I hope my screen is shared with you all when I'm showing the part. Was it screen shared when I was showing you the various platforms, sir?
Yeah, no.
Okay, so sorry. I just I was showing all the platforms, but I thought that my screen is shared and you missed out. Anyways, this is Kahoot, which is a game-based platform. It is very fun to do game. It hardly takes 10 to 15 minutes of your class, wherein students are engaged. You can see I played this game, live game with my children. There were 21 students over here, and this was a basic recap of any chapter taught. Now, the reports which I'm getting out of this is very interesting. I'll just open one of the quick recap thing, and I'll show you how the reports can be generated into the classroom. You can see questions. How many questions were there? So there were 10 questions. These are the 10 questions. How many students did it 100%? How many students didn't participate? So these are kind of summary you can get of any 60% was correct, 40% students were not able to make it. Now I can give the same game again to my class after taking the revision of the content. So this is how game-based learning with Kahoot can take place, and it hardly takes 15 to 20 minutes in any classroom to go for such game-based learning option. So this was about Kahoot, how I use it. We can see chapter 3 basics of HTML 44% correct, and which were the hard questions. You can even find out that which were the difficult questions. So suppose we found that these 2 questions were difficult for the children to do, then we can ask them, or we can teach them again this topic, and we can again take a recap of the quiz. So this is how we can have remedial learning sessions also. So this is what I've shown for this one. And now talking about social emotional learning. So as Mr. Jacob sir told about how we can have social emotional learning. Sir, I would like to show here one of the project of last year. This is hashtag Ace for Peace project, wherein I took students for a campaign of earning values and spread empathy. So this was our Ace for Peace campaign, wherein we talk about bullying, and we ask students to take concept of say no to bullying. Then we asked them to share their kindness stories to us. Finally, we took the review of that from a global collaborative session. Also, you can see all the teachers, students, all the communities. We've got almost reviews, and each one can see each other's responses. So as ma'am was telling, Revati ma'am was telling that we can have a response debate also. So we generally conduct debates also through Flipgrid. So there is no activity left out in this pandemic. You can see English show and tell activity. The show and tell activity can be conducted through Flipgrid. So I have covered everything over here in this slide. This slide I've shown that how we can use education.microsoft.com platform. We can ask the teachers to do the courses which are available, and they can select the courses based on their beginner level and all. So these are the various learning paths available. I would suggest over here to the teachers who are watching this panel discussion, please go through the 21 CLD learning path. This 21 CLD learning path talks all about creativity, collaboration, self-regulation, and how we can effectively plan our lessons based on that. So this is how we can use Microsoft. Then I have CIT platform. So I will finish in a minute, sir. I would just finish in a minute. Then CIT platform. CIT is also giving CIT, NCRT has given webinar platform. If any teacher wants to learn, sir, can we mute the other person? Yeah. So the CIT NCRT has also taken an initiative to provide with ICT webinars, and we can see a lot of tools are there. So suppose your teacher wants to learn about Flipgrid, which I was talking about. They can scroll through the list and they can go to the particular Flipgrid webinar, and it is given as well. It is in Hindi as well as in English. So this initiative is there. Even we have a presentation attached here and the video of that particular tool. So the teachers can please go to the cit.nic.in platform, and they can find the tools over here. Whatever tool they want to understand, they can just go to this tool explanation. You can see here it is my about interactive slide presentation. There is a presentation as well as the video. If they click on video, it will lead to the webinar video. So this is how they can use CIT platform. So I will just close it right now, and I'll move over to the next one. Diksha I have shown, but I don't know whether my screen was shared or not. Diksha is also a unique platform by CIT, NCRT, and MHRD, Ministry of Education, wherein we have CBSE, NCRT, NIOS, and state content. Then we have Google also. Google provides teacher center training for Google Drive, Google this, but I'm not sure about Google Education tools, which can be effectively pedagogy based tools. Then Minecraft we have learned, and Flipgrid. Game based, you can use Wakelet, Neopod, and Kahoot. For any reference in my slides, probably we'll be able to share this links to all of you, wherein there is a playlist for the tools which I have covered, as well as there is a playlist for the ICT webinar videos, wherein you will find all the tools which can be effectively used to appropriate pedagogies. So I think I have done with it, sir, and I would like to inspire teachers over here that it is all on us, how we use effective pedagogies and ICT tools. ICT tools cannot go alone. By learning ICT tools, we can never tell that we have achieved 100% academic excellence. So I think this is the thing which I wanted to convey, sir. Thank you so much.
It's a very informative presentation. Actually, you touched upon many issues where teachers can learn a lot from the tools that are available with Microsoft, and also how you can use gamification, and also use short techniques to keep the children engaged. So I think you covered a lot of areas.
Yes, sir. I'll try to provide the links in our YouTube channel also, or the Facebook Live also, wherever we are posting it, so that the teachers can go to the links, and they can preferably go to the any platforms with whichever they prefer to learn more on this.
So great. And also the social-emotional part of learning, that also you covered. So many concerns that were raised, you have tried to cover in this episode. So we'll quickly go to Lawrence Verghese, principal of International Indian School, Dammam, Saudi Arabia, and what he feels about how to use these solutions. Now the solutions are with us. Now, are we prepared to use this instead of talking about the challenges?
Good evening to everyone, and thanks for the invitation to be part of this wonderful panel. And the topic, indeed, it is thought-provoking and very useful for the Gen Z. Gen Z is the next generation. For them, it is not just like a traditional way of teaching is enough. But I would like to mention a few things, the difficulties we faced in our school. When we got the lockdown imposed on us on the 8th of March 2020, and we had to begin our new academic year on 4th of April 2020. We just had 26 days to plan, execute, and implement everything from the physical classrooms into online classroom on Zoom platform. That was the platform we used initially. So it was a very Herculean task, and we gave training to the IT department and computer teachers, and they imparted training to the teachers. Those teachers, basically, language teachers, Hindi teachers, third languages from the various parts of various states, I mean. And then for them, it was a very tough task. But to our satisfaction, all came up nicely, and we implemented this task of switching to virtual platform very smoothly. And within 2 months, we could achieve almost 70% success. And thereafter, we added other kind of education also, that the students extracurricular activities on Zoom platform, wherein the events related to Indian national interests and international importance, that also were incorporated into the teaching. So when we impart knowledge only in case of subject learning, like maths, science, or social, or languages, then the students' interest that we found, it was diminishing. And moreover, in this part of the world, I must say that I'm from Saudi Arabia. We are actually having many of the parents, both father and mother working and leaving their children at home. So the interests of the children are very important. Therefore, we had to have more of fun-based teaching and some activities incorporated into the regular teaching timetable. So what we did, we started doing the kind of activities as Ms. Kripali mentioned, that Kahoot, we implemented that, and many similar things were introduced into the teaching. And later on, for the senior sections, what we did, we switched to G Suite, where the classes were conducted in the Google platform. And for the middle level, we continue to conduct in Zoom platform, and for the smaller kids like kindergarten and grade 1, 2. So for them, it was impossible for the students to sit and learn in front of the screen. So for them, we had the time given to those students that was even extended to even evening hours, where the parents, at least one of the parent was available. And after that, then even the middle section also switched to Google platform, and the smaller classes continue to have the WhatsApp based the teaching actually sent to the students. So in a way, we started with the difficulty, but towards the end of one academic year, I must say that in our school, the entire staff now, they become techno savvy, and they are all very experienced now, and we are well equipped. When these children, when they come back to the classroom, we have a concern that the speed of the teaching will not be sufficient for them to just sit there for 30 or 40 minutes period with the normal teaching time, the blackboard kind of teaching. So they want things to be done in a faster way. So the hybrid way of teaching is required to reduce their speed at least for some period of time, and then get back to the normal classroom way of teaching. And moreover, although the technology is very important, and the providers, the platform builders, they supported the schools very nicely. At the same time, the teacher in a classroom will have a different connection with the children, and a soft touch and a smile cannot be replaced by a screen smile or kind of teaching. So it is important to have the physical classrooms active sooner than later, and hopefully the things will improve in a shorter period of time. And regarding the platforms, now we are happy that the situation is such that we are adding more inputs into the technology-based teaching, because the teachers are well experienced, and even at some point of time, if there is any technical glitches, even the teacher will be taking the advice from students. That is a welcome change now, because the grasping level and the learning speed of the children is much greater than that of the adult, those who are nearing 50 or 60. So in that way, it is advantageous. And over to this technology-based innovations, and more innovations that is required. And as one of the panelists suggested that the bandwidth and the kind of internet usage and all these things are very important. And we did face the same problem last year. And in a house of 5 children or 4 children, having 1 or 2 devices only, so they found it very difficult, how to manage like that. To some extent, our social groups and the school also supported them to a greater extent. And then we scattered the timing also for the benefit of the children, so that there should not be anybody deprived from the classroom. And another issue was actually the internet, cost of the internet, that is not very low here, or probably in India also it will be like that. But that part also should be taken into consideration when the people, those who are into the innovations and inventions should consider to provide internet facility or the gadgets, at a cheaper rate, so that, there should be some kind of social commitments shown by such people also.
Okay,
And
thanks.
Thank you so much.
Yes. So we were basically talking about the lack of infrastructure, and that is a problem that everybody else is facing. So we'll quickly go to Mr. Ajit Sen. Actually, he's Associate Director of ESAF Bank, and he has extensive experience of providing education in rural areas in Jharkhand, tribal areas. So how did he overcome the technological challenge and also the infrastructure challenge to make education happen there?
Yeah, good evening all. So I am connecting to you from a place called Dumka in Jharkhand. We are in a very different world altogether. Most of what has been discussed here does not, in a way, hasn't even reached most of the kids that we are dealing with. So the schools that we have, some of which are in very remote places where the electricity is not even reached. So the first thing that we started is there are certain innovations happened during COVID, but before COVID itself, there is a lot of lack of teachers also here. Educated, you are getting in a particular panchayat or in a block, getting people qualified teachers itself is a huge Herculean task. You may not be you can't be getting people who can work as teachers. That is the first biggest challenge. So what we used to do is we used to send a LED television in a motorbike of our community volunteer. So with a battery connected to that, so that it can be played there in the village, and with the education material loaded in a small pen drive. So that is how we started innovating to augment the lack of teachers or qualified teachers to go and teach in very remote and rural villages, to have some digital content teaching reaching them. So that we started practicing almost 4 years back itself. So that was somewhat helping. But then when COVID came and the schools closed, we cannot run anything. So one more technological innovation came into our rural area, is using a loudspeaker which reaches the kids. Were sitting in their homes, and in loudspeaker classes were taken, so that they can hear sitting in their villages and note down, take some notes or learn. That is very fundamental. So equipment, if you see, even smartphone not available, 90% of the household, even they're having a mobile phone, it is just the basic phone. They don't have the smartphone access or the internet or the capacity to operate that. Mostly, some of the learned guys, what they used to do is use the Google voice search and search something and play that video and see, rather than typing a proper input into that. So that is a challenge. Then the cost, even they have to go for a mobile phone, a smartphone, or a tablet or a laptop. It is not even think about that in that household of those level of kids coming from. So this kind of small innovations were happening. So the greatest challenge, as I told, learned manpower, training of teachers. And then also in the tribal belt, the challenge is mother tongue learning. So they come from a language which is very unique from their household, their community. It is spoken. They come to the school day one in kindergarten. It starts with Hindi. So it is totally the two worlds are totally entirely different for them. So for them to catch up with Hindi, the language, and then learn the subject through that language, it's a big challenge. So we try to bridge that gap by having teachers who can handle both the languages. So the mother tongue, the tribal language, will help us a linking chain for them to learn the next language and pick up the lessons that they are supposed to learn in the future. And then in digital landscape for such children, apart from what we can do as a group, even during lockdown, what we did was we started community classes, taking the television set and the teaching equipment to their how to a household nearby, and gathering small number of children and taking classes to them at the community level, rather than bringing children to the schools, which we cannot do during this pandemic period. And in rural setup, as the digital proper classes were not happening, the parents also, they simply used to say, sir, is sal chhod diya, leave this year, we'll see next year. So 1 year, or now even second year is happening the same way. So there are thousands of kids probably losing couple of years without not learning even a small thing in their life. So that is a bigger challenge. And in this digital pedagogy, another challenge is what we see is, like, how about parents who are illiterate? The kids are at the home, for them to operate their mobile devices, or even with the mobile devices, getting classes in WhatsApp, how the kid alone can sit and understand that completely and support if the parents are illiterate in a way. So even if the parents are working, both of them are not available from morning to evening. How the kids will by themselves will be able to adapt to that. So that is again a challenge. So one idea that we always used to do is a role play. Kids likes a lot that, even in rural setup. So you explain something through the video that you have, and then the kids do the role play of that and learn through that. That is something actually really works a lot. So that again gives a connection for them from the virtual world to the real world that they are around. So so these are some of the simple techniques or ways we try to divide the gap. It's impossible to have a single device for each child at this part of the country, or at their economic level that they are in. So education, as they very simply say, 1 year 2 year 2 साल जाने दीजिए सर, अगले साल देखेंगे. So the seriousness or the importance that they understand, we can understand that how they feel about that. So I think there is a lot of innovation or a lot of work to be done here. I tried, that is not for our school. When a lot of Byjus advertisements coming in the television, I thought that is something very good. Let me try. So I tried for my kids in a way, registered, and initially the free lessons came. Then I thought this is something good to reach the poor children who lack education. But then I got the call, when it come to the payment mode, he very simply said, sir, it is very cheap, only 55,000, but for you we are reducing it to 33,000. How a poor boy or girl in such in our country, where the digital divide and economic divide is so huge, how they can afford something like that? I think we as educationists has to come out with solution in this digital era, how we can bridge this gap further, how we can take education to the least and the last mile, the kids in the bottom of this pyramid, who may permanently lose opportunity to education during this pandemic time. Thank you.
Great. Yeah. So you raised some very, very interesting points, actually, teaching through the loudspeaker and getting the pen drive across. So these are all solutions that you come, just that happens in your mind and you just apply it. Anyway, it's a very interesting thing, and I'm sure that your efforts will be appreciated, and maybe some solution will come where you can deploy technology at a much affordable price to the common man there. So we'll quickly go to Smita Annie Matthew. She's an educationist. So after hearing all this, what is the gap she finds in this digital world that is happening now, and how best we can, any ideas to overcome that?
Yeah, thank you so much, Srikumar, and I must thank Pallikudam and the Rajagiri Media House for focusing on one of the most imperative needs, according to me, in education today. That is, how do we revisit and redesign our pedagogical strategies in order to make graduates more capable, more employable, and keep our pedagogical strategies relevant to the times that we are in. So with that, I would like to deep dive into my topic, which is appropriate pedagogy for the digital natives. Now, digital natives are the ones who are studying today and will occupy Industry 4.0, the workspaces of Industry 4.0. Now, as we know, Industry 4.0 is evolving exponentially, and we are witnessing path-breaking technology evolving and emerging at breakneck speeds. What is the toolkit that would be required by our students in order to make themselves relevant to Industry 4.0? I'd like to list a few: cognitive flexibility, adaptive thinking, collaborative and multidisciplinary approach towards problem solving, the ability to manage different teams and work alongside principles of diversity and inclusion, and also entrepreneurial capabilities. This also means that the school and the college education that we provide today may not be sufficient for them to thrive in a career which spans 20 to 30 odd years. Therefore, the need for upskilling, reskilling, and multi-skilling will be a constant. So if not schools and colleges, where will learning happen? That will happen in workspaces. And that brings us to the next point, which is collaborative learning, also known as social learning or peer learning. Now, our system of education, as we know it, is teacher-driven. It is teacher-centric, and pedagogical concepts, as the term goes, are developed for young children and adolescents, but not for adults. Adult learning features and capabilities are different, and that needs to be taken into account. We are traditionally used to the concept of formal learning setup, brick and mortar classrooms, and a central instructor figure who drives this process. This cannot hold true for lifelong learners while they are at their workspaces. And hence, we need to shift the spotlight from pedagogy to andragogy, which looks at adult learning. So if I have to put this in a nutshell, it is that we will need to develop in our students not just the ability to identify what to learn, but how to learn, because that is what will hold them in good stead in the future. It leads us to an other point, which is the multidisciplinary approach. And why so? Because when people engage in collaborative projects, you are likely to have very different viewpoints coming in. And therefore, it's very necessary that the employee of tomorrow is comfortable working in a setup and using multidisciplinary approaches. Now, as we know, education has disciplinary boundaries, but these boundaries only exist in the university. Once we move to our workspaces, they are not there anymore. And the workspaces of tomorrow are far more dynamic. We cannot expect them to be segmented into perfectly contained boxes of disciplines. And this underpins three very important points. One is the need to develop multidisciplinary programs to do away with what we traditionally term as academic silos and to discontinue strict didactic practices. Coming to the next point, now if we look at our education strategies today, we focus more on application, and that seems to be the most intended outcome of most of our education. We need to move from application to synthesis, the higher order thinking skills, and therefore lots to HOTS, which only means lower order thinking skills to higher order thinking skills. Now, it may just, if I have to give an example, I think it would be AI or ML or even augmented reality. If we look at the foundation of all of this, it's data. And data by itself has no intrinsic value unless it is processed. And it is like oil. Oil by itself, crude oil, has a certain value, but once processed, its value increases multifold. Same applies for data. Data has to be identified. The correct data or useful data has to be identified, organized, managed, retrieved, and processed efficiently in order to derive meaningful outputs, designs, or products. Our businesses, our markets, and even our economies are data-driven today, which is why we need to make this shift from lower order thinking skills to higher order thinking skills right at the university level. Finally, looking at all of this, how do we do this? So we come to what is known as academic design. Now, what we do currently is a curriculum first or a curriculum centric approach. When we think of a program, automatically our energies are concentrated towards coming up with a competitive curriculum. Is that the best approach? Or can we do something else? Can we turn this entire process on its head? Which means when we think of a new program, we first consult the industry, because the ultimate objective of any program is employability or entrepreneurship, both of which the industry can give a good insight on. So we consult the industry, come up with graduate attributes. Once we have graduate attributes, we go down and then we think of assessment and evaluation and assessment strategies, which will help us understand as to whether these graduate attributes have been achieved and to what extent. And once these are in place and defined well, we go down to curriculum and then go down to curricular design. Now, is this going to work? Will this really help us? I think it should, because we are now approaching it with an outcome-based design in mind. Speaking of design thinking, it has revolutionized all sectors and it has cut across different industries, and education is no exception. Now, what can we do about this? How do we incorporate design? So currently, as our teaching practices are, we lay emphasis on what is to be taught. Every topic begins with what it is, and a lot of emphasis on that with definitions and a lot of information going there. Can we focus more on why it is being taught? Also, as teachers, can we focus on how it is going to be taught, and then probably look at what is going to be taught? What is going to be taught is still important, but can we shift the focus that we lay on it to the why and the how? This may sound a little foreign to us at this point, but if we practice it, it will definitely become second nature to us. And if we as faculty are able to do it, I'm sure that the students will also, it will trickle down to the students, and they will also develop in them the capability to not just look for right answers, but to look for the right problems to find solutions to. And that is a higher order thinking skill, because identification of a problem will compel the student to think with empathy. In order to identify a problem and then think that I need to come up with a solution, empathy is critical. And along with empathy, we might be able to develop in them certain principles of equity, equality, and ethics. So I would like, and of course, due to paucity of time, I'm not focusing on another point, but it is imperative that we teach acceptance and tolerance to our students, and that needs to be incorporated in the pedagogy as well, because they need to work in a diverse workforce. All other points, I think all those who've spoken before me have covered, so I'm not repeating those. So I would like to leave you with this particular quote: education is not the filling of a pail, but the lighting of a fire. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Smita and Matthew, for that very informative presentation. Actually, you touched upon the importance of lifelong learning. So moving from pedagogy to a lifelong approach and critical thinking and design thinking, so many areas you covered. So we'll quickly go to a presentation of Pallikudam High School, where when we talked about a lot of infrastructure issues, we talked about pedagogy and all these things. Now, overcoming all these barriers, even with limited resources, how can we teach children to adapt and evolve as they go from childhood to adolescence and to adult? So that's a small presentation, and then thereafter our director, Dr. Varghese Pandalukaran, will be just supplementing it to that presentation.
There was a time when learning was considered to be gathering information and acquiring knowledge. Today, we live in a digital age where information is free, quick, and at our fingertips. Digitalization has taken over many aspects of life. The future is almost here, where humans will have to team up with humanoids. Are the new generation learners equipped for this? To enable a learner to cope with the volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity of future life and workspaces. Entrepreneurial education, a pedagogy of the digital natives. Why entrepreneurial education? This learning method instills an entrepreneurial mindset and elicits in a learner skills to meet the 21st century demands. The learner-driven activities develop skills like What is entrepreneurial education? It is driven by intrinsic motivations of the learner to create, to communicate, to excel, to play, and to serve. It follows blended learning through observations, experiments, and activities using locally available resources. Entrepreneurial education is smart, accessible to all, and incurs zero wastage. It empowers families and communities with entrepreneurial mindset and develops suitable learning ecosystem. It's a platform to provide quality education to all age groups in spite of their social, economical, and cultural background. Thus, it promotes the Sustainable Development Goal of UNESCO on quality education. How is entrepreneurial education done? It is a blended learning method which overcomes the digital divide due to e-learning. Usage of local, natural, and regional resources for activities makes it affordable and accessible even to the marginalized. The activities distributed as homework nurture an entrepreneurial outlook in families, inspire education systems in other nations to remodel their curriculum influenced by entrepreneurial education. Train teachers and volunteers from different spheres of life to become its emissaries. Wider reach through collaboration with established schools and NGOs around the globe. Steps involved in this education method. Step 1, entrepreneurial learning event, a learner-initiated, self-motivated learning experience. Step 2, entrepreneurial teaching event, a learner-centered, teacher-driven learning experience. Entrepreneurial learning event has 5 progressive stages which transforms a seed idea into a service or product. It is steered by the intrinsic motivation of a learner. Entrepreneurial teaching event shows the learner the immense scope of their idea. It has 2 integrations, vertical and horizontal. Our goals: cultivate a habit of entrepreneurial thinking in every future citizen of the world. Develop our nation as an entrepreneurial nation. Nurture one's core strength and follow the unique call and mission in life. Let's join hands to make entrepreneurial education global. Thank you.
Now, Dr. Varghese Pandolurkar, our director, will be supplementing to this video.
You might have noticed that the word entrepreneurial is being repeated many times in this particular presentation. Maybe it is it's time for us to look into the history of education to realize how the pedagogical approaches have transformed according to the need of the time, as dictated by advancements in technologies. In a time when transmission of knowledge was difficult, pedagogists emphasized on remembering the knowledge in such a way that learners could recover it on demand. They were required to learn things by heart, by repeated recitation of mantras, which encapsulated knowledge in summary form. Emphasis was on faithful transmission of knowledge. Those who could recite Latin, Greek, Sanskrit, Aramaic, or Arabic texts with right intonation were considered to be excellent students in those days, even as they might not have understood the meaning of those texts. As time went by, technologies of printing and publication became prevalent, making transmission of knowledge much easier. Correspondingly, the focus of pedagogies shifted towards the understanding of the meaning of text and its contextual interpretation. Pedagogies of those days emphasized on understanding. Knowledgeable people were those who had ready answers for the doubts of the people. The wise were considered as walking encyclopedias. During the period of industrialization, learners were required to be experts in the application of a given piece of knowledge. They were also expected to analyze problems, to evaluate industrial processes time to time. This made information ubiquitous, triggering an information revolution. Pedagogies of industrial age focused on skill development, which equipped the learners to make use of the information to solve some perennial problem. Today, we stand on the peak of another path-breaking industrial revolution, which is named differently, as we have already heard, Industry 4.0 or digitalization revolution, etc. Here, the intelligent machines displace their human counterparts from the traditional roles to apply, analyze, or evaluate. These machines are equipped with abilities to manage everything, including making decisions on their own. In the new scenario, humans are just condemned to be creative, to make things more complex. It is anticipated that the roles of creation also will be delegated to the machine in the near future. We are compelled today to devise a novel pedagogy that suits the needs of the time, the needs of the digital natives. You might have noticed that we have already exhausted the possibilities given by the Benjamin Bloom in his taxonomy of education objectives. It is no more sufficient today that learners remember, as the learners did the first phase of this evolution of pedagogies. It is not sufficient that they just understand things, as it happened in second phase of this evolution. It is not sufficient that apply, analyze, or evaluate, as it happened in the third phase of this evolution. It is not even sufficient that they create, which is happening today. The learners of tomorrow, they are supposed to venture. A pedagogy that equips the new generation learners to venture may be called an entrepreneurial pedagogy. It starts with creation of a seed idea, systematically progressing towards the transformation of that seed idea into an entrepreneurial product or service. This is what is shown in the presentation, which you have already seen. The pedagogy shall empower the digital natives to cope with the uncertainties in their life and career, keeping them entrepreneurially fit. It is truly sad to see the complacency of many new generation education service providers who keep on capitalizing on the vestiges of the past pedagogies in an attempt to enhance this profit. I would like to ask the roundtable a final question. Is it not time to require these service providers to attach a guarantee for the effectiveness of the pedagogies they follow? Thank you very much.
We'll quickly go to Mr. Manan Choksi, who's director of the Udgam School and also Udgam Consultancy. What he thinks about the points that were discussed. And we'll after that, we'll be quickly going to Mr. Balagopal, C. Balagopal, who's a retired former IAS officer and also a successful entrepreneur.
Yes, am I audible? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so I have been listening about skill upgradation, like outdation of the curriculum and everything since long, much before the pandemic. And what I believe is that there are some timeless skills which we need to ensure that those skills are being taught to the students. So, for example, even now schools in India are teaching cursive writing. So that's something which is a bit, outdated in today's time when many of students are submitting their assignments which are typewritten. So I'm thinking many people are scared of maths because they are afraid of tables. So, just imagine students with calculator will not be scared of maths. I'm not promoting that you should stop teaching maths, stop teaching tables, but what I'm just giving you an idea of the world requirement is not addition and multiplication. The world today does not require memorization of facts. The world today does not require a lot of things like cursive writing, a lot of things which we have been wasting the time of students in school and ingraining them with fears which last a lifetime. I have seen most students who take humanities are actually bad at tables, as simple as that. Okay, so having said that, first of all, we need to focus on teaching timeless skills. Secondly, what I was understanding from the challenges faced by schools, what I was understanding is that we about 20 years ago, like we faced the same thing. Parents did not have access to computers. Smartphone were not invented. Technology was a big luxury. But what we did was we took small steps, small steps as in we wanted to our parents to be tech savvy. That was something which we done 15 years ago where we had our admission form online. So only a parent who can fill a form online could get admission to our school. Okay, so I'm not saying that schools which are in areas which are not having parents having that affordability should do that. What I'm suggesting is that a part of a school role is also to educate parents. Many schools believe that parents are not paying fees to educate for us to educate them, though we should not do that. But I think what schools should have a broader picture where they should also educate parents with the technology and make it compulsory for them to use. So what we did was we had an app, mobile app, and we declared final results only on that app. If you want your child's final and half yearly result, you need to have the app and you need to download it. So it was not extra cost to them, but it made them, so these are various things which we did years ago. So today, while we wanted to do 99.7%, people had computer access when we went to COVID, when we went to remote education. So I think we need to have this broader view and we should focus on things which what we can do. I have heard a lot of people saying this is not, we cannot do this, we should not do this, this has no meaning. But I think we should focus on things which have meaning and we should take it from there. So yeah, these were very few thoughts I had in my mind to share with all of you. We'll take up discussion later on. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Manan Choksi. So we'll quickly go to Mr. Balagopal. Actually, he has got wide experience in administrative service, and from there he went into business, and he has been a successful entrepreneur and mentor. Yeah. And I would like to ask him, after hearing all this and considering the India's diversity, and you have been in the Northeast also. So how best we can come up with very appropriate solutions? We always think too much that we should have technology, whether there are some other ways by which we can have these skills in children.
Okay. Thank you. I listened to all the presentations with great attention. And I think probably the most sensible observation, one or two of them were made by Dr. Varghese Pandalukaran at the end. And I think his observations regarding the people who develop these learning platforms, especially the larger companies, they should be make themselves accountable for what they are trying to deliver and what is it that they are trying to accomplish by those platforms. There's one fundamental question which bothered me when I was listening to right from the beginning till the end, is that many of us don't seem to be aware of the fact that this education system, the school system as we know it now, and the university system as we know it now, is less than 200 years old. Okay, it doesn't have a continuity of thousands of years or anything. It is a post-industrial revolution development where the whole idea was to train up the large numbers of manpower needed to man those factories. So the schools, the underlying principle behind schools, and that spilled over into colleges also, higher education also, was standardization. They did not look at the individual propensities and talents and creativities of students. That was not the object of the exercise. It was to ram them all into a kind of one-size-fits-all thing. And whether it was Eton or whether it was the biggest, so-called public schools, which is actually the opposite. Those were the most expensive private schools in England, or whether it was a cheap local municipal school, they were all achieving the same thing. They were grading the students, standardizing them, dishing out knowledge in terms of standardized modules. That hasn't changed one bit till today. Now, the concern for me is whether it was Microsoft platform, whether it was Google platform, or any of these platforms, they're all trying to deliver more and more products into this system. They're not trying to change the system. They cannot change the system. The system is too much entrenched. So here we are talking about, there is a disconnect. Education is seen by people who know. I don't know. I'm an outsider. I'm a former entrepreneur and now I'm an investor. But I'm talking about people like Ken Robinson and Yuval Noah Hariri and others who are great philosophers and students of the education sector. What they say is education is in deep crisis because it is not changing at all. And they're talking about the West. We sit here and admire everything in the West, isn't it? We think they're doing everything correct. You should hear what Ken Robinson and Yuval Noah Hariri and others who are studying the Western education system have to say about that system. Okay, and they say it is completely not fit for purpose. It is not preparing because they are not able to envisage the world which is emerging. And what they are saying is, we are trying to educate a child who 14 years or 15 years later is going to come out into a world about which we have no idea. We have absolutely no picture today. So what are we trying to do here in this education system? So my point here is, what worries me is, there is the thing called the echo chamber effect. I think first thing is, I really admire Rajagiri for organizing, and that this is the 71st edition of such a workshop. I say hats off to you, because nobody else is doing this. Nowhere else am I coming across such regular round table like this on this format held. My humble suggestion is, call fewer educationists and call more people from outside the system. Otherwise, you will suffer from what's called the echo chamber effect. The echo chamber effect is you will start hearing yourself. People like you speaking. So everything will be about this platform or that platform or this refinement or that refinement. There is nothing new which is going to come out here. So my worry is, I sat here for 2 hours. I didn't hear anything new, and they're all competent people who are accomplished people dealing with that. So I'm not blaming them. I'm merely saying this is part of the system problem. In system theory, there is a maxim: structure determines behavior. So it is not a question of whether a person is good, whether a person is motivated, whether a person is sincere or anything. You put the person into the system, that's the behavior you get. And our education system is designed to behave in a certain way. It will only behave that way. Anybody getting into the system can only behave that way. And if you want to change it, you have to get out of the system, look at it, and then try and change it. That's my broad observation. We don't have the time. I hope I'll have the opportunity to participate in future workshops. I learned a lot listening to it, but it leaves me more a worried person at the end of the session than I was at the beginning. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Balagopal. Actually, you have put us on the defensive, but of course, I agree with you that it's a game that is being played. So people go by the rules of the game. So the structure is being built this way, and actually people are trying to be smart in that game. So we'll quickly go to Anupama Ramachandra. She's the principal of DPS Bangalore. After hearing to all this, how do you react to, respond to this suggestion that our system is not changing and we need to be open, keep our minds open, or ears and eyes open, and try to get this feedback from outside and try to improvise?
Yeah, so a very, very good evening to all of you. To be putting me after Balagopal sir is a little intimidating now that after the feedback was given, but then I'll try my best to share what I have learned through my experience as an educator. So firstly, thanks to Pallikuttam and Rajagiri Roundtable Conference for having me here to share my thoughts on how we can change things. So quickly, of a child who was in our school, a middle schooler, in one of the schools there, and students only above grade 7 were allowed to go to the canteen. So this middle schooler who had a sibling in one of the younger classes, he came upon a plan. So what he did was, on a daily basis, he would take some money from his parents' wallet. And what he would do is, in the morning itself, he would buy a certain number of energy bars that the children really liked with money. And with the coordination of his younger sibling, he found out some representatives of students, I would say, who kind of helped him sell these energy bars at a profit to the younger school children. It came to all of us at school as a shock, and of course, naturally, he was reprimanded by his parents and the school, of course, for what he was doing. But then all of us took a moment to sit and think that was there something that we had to recognize in this child? Was he an entrepreneur? And with students like this all around us, is it necessary for the schools to teach entrepreneurship, or is it already there and we just have to kind of recognize it and promote it? So, many of us think that entrepreneurship is for people who want to start something on their own, or they want to start their own companies or startups. So this is a myth, is what I feel. That is where we go wrong also, because we feel that we can promote this by teaching them. So entrepreneurship is something that cannot be taught. It is promoted by encouraging the children to learn by doing. What this boy was doing, I think, fits into the definition of entrepreneurship, which means that if, as an individual, you are able to turn your idea into action, and you can be innovative in the way you're doing things, and you're ready to take risk, because that is a characteristic of that. And of course, if you're able to plan and manage your projects with a view of achieving your objectives, I think you are an entrepreneur. And an entrepreneur is a word from French, entreprendre, which means to undertake. So anybody who undertakes to solve problems in an innovative way, it can be a solution to an age-old problem, but if they come up with something out of the box, that is being enterprising. So as a school, I feel that many of us shy away from encouraging children to do something different. Is we always think that what is in it for us, right? Sometimes even principals are not aware of how to run these programs, and they always think that why should we focus on something that is not going to give us tangible results? Because at the end of the year, teaching children how to be enterprising is not going to be reflected in their board examinations. So many times principals do not encourage their own teachers to run programs. We need to understand that to change things, a lot of time is involved, a lot of resources are involved. So teachers must be given this kind of support in terms of training and also, experiences also, so that they can run this program with a free hand. And we should involve the stakeholders also. It is not possible for us to single-handedly run it. We have to involve the community, very, very important. Many of our parents are from different industries. So we should always have them volunteer to come and talk to us children about different industries, about different areas of, the workspaces that they are coming from, so that the children are equipped to make very informed choices. So we have to take the support of the surrounding industries also, and we have to tell them that as a part of your CSR activities, why don't you give our school children summer internships? Every year we do have some companies who come and give us these kind of opportunities, but barely 10 students in the entire school is given this opportunity. Is this enough for us to think about a change that we are all thinking about? So this has to be a massive program that all of us take up in all earnest. And schools should encourage setting up running mini companies in school. That is very, very important, because when I was on my Fulbright scholarship in the US, I saw how students made some money cleaning cars of the parents, the teachers, and this money was either used for something that they always wanted in their school, like a basketball ring, or they would even donate it for a cause. So unless and until we allow children to know about the problems in our community, and also for them to come up with solutions and also try it. Many times we only have a simulation kind of an exercise where we tell them that this is the problem, so how do you think we can solve it? Are we allowing the children to go out into the community and try their solutions? And another important aspect is whatever program we take up, we take it for granted that we are doing something worthwhile. I feel as an educational administrator, it is so important for us to keep on assessing the outcome of these programs. We have to have some kind of evaluation to see whether it is having an impact that it should have in the community. So, with these things, I feel that if students are encouraged to find solutions to the problems that exist around them, they just have to be sensitized about, are you aware that these problems exist? And is there some way that we can find solutions for that? So I would like to just end my talk because I know we are running out of time. I would just like to end with another instance where one of my grade 11 student, he came to us from the state of Bihar. And to take admission in our school, he and his father had to make 3 trips, one for the entrance exam, one for the interaction, and then again to pay the fees. So he told me that, ma'am, I cannot tell you how angry I was that you made us travel so many times. So then I told him that there are so many students who apply for our school admission from far off places, and how can we help them? And I'm not exaggerating, with some kind of monetary help from the school that he got, he set up an end-to-end solution to this problem, where right from application to entrance exam to having an interaction to paying the fees, everything was done online. So children can come up with solutions. It's just that we have to have the faith in them and involve all the stakeholders, because everybody has a role to play. We cannot sit back and say that the teacher will run all the programs. They will be the only change makers in the education system. All of us have our roles to play, and we have to do it in all earnest. Thank you all for your patient hearing, and I hope I made some sense to all of you.
Yeah. It was heartening to see that you are promoting entrepreneurship, entrepreneurial kind of learning in your school also. That's great. What I felt is that India is now, despite all the infrastructural problems, we're swiftly moving into 5G technology. That's what I understand from IIT Hyderabad and IIT Madras. They have come up with low-cost solutions which will enable us to reach this what you call connectivity, internet connectivity, 5G connectivity, even in rural areas. So, which means that we have a innovative mindset, and all these people in our IITs and IIMs, they are all working hard to ensure that we have the right kind of connectivity. But the crucial problem now is whether we are obsessed too much with the technology part of it and not looking at the other aspects of education. So is there anybody who would like to fill the gaps in this discussion? Thomas George.
I very much echo what Anupama Madam said, and also what Balagopal sir said. The structure defines the system. We have too many structures. We have too many systems in place. And we have a new system coming up, which is the NEP, which is for effects to come up about it's 2035, which is another generation wasting their time, I would say. So what I suggest very much what Anupama Ma'am said, that involve students in social causes. Are they aware of these kind of problems? You have a range of issues that you could be able to sort out on a voluntary basis. Could be anything. It could be pollution, global warming, water crisis, poverty alleviation, whatever. These are the issues. Who can get involved and who can take these things forward? It is very, very important to sensitize the youth, especially. As of today, a lot of them are lost in social media, things that they have no clue what is happening in the world. There are these kind of problems of water. I know people staying in my flat who don't, the children, they have no idea there is a major water crisis coming up in the world. So this kind of, and they, there's a lot of waste of water, things like that. So a lot of these things can be sensitized and we work outside the system. And the NEP is very good if it is implemented in system, but 2035 is too far off, another 14 years. So this is very important to have small initiatives in every school, in every college, to take them to places or whatever, get them involved, sensitize them, so then they get involved in the world at large. They understand what is happening. So that is what my take on this, because we really have to get people involved more than just teaching them or getting a better system in place. Thank you.
So is there anybody else who would like to? We'll have 2 more minutes before we wind up. We have already overshot time.
I would like to add on over here. First of all, thank you so much. At a very young age, I got to learn about so many parameters for a successful education system to run on. I truly agree with sir also on the thing that yes, there could be a chamber. It could be an echo chamber if we all are talking about technology integration, ICT education. We should have someone in the room who could be a good critic also, so that we come to know that what changes we need to make in whatever procedures we are doing right now. I would equally support Banan sir also here on parents' education, because so far I was talking about we are training teachers, we are training on pedagogies, we are training on effective ICT tools. But as Ma'am Anupama Ma'am rightly said, that entrepreneurship can start from classroom. I am doing a lot of projects with students. And while doing these projects, I understand that at times I don't have that much knowledge as these digital natives are having. These digital natives are born with internet connectivity, they are born with AI knowledge, machine learning, and so much. So if we just guide them into the classroom to utilize it for community initiatives, I think they are the best one to do. But I would just like to share one of the case studies. We are just working on a project for AI for good right now. And in that, students are promoting, they are giving away a lot of time. They are researching on data, they are collecting surveys from all over the country, across the globe, and everything. They are doing almost everything which a 21 CLD classroom promotes. But what is the barrier over here is I get a lot of complaints at times from parents that my child is not focusing on academics. But somewhere that I would like to promote over here that somewhere parents also need to understand that now the traditional classroom where the child was just learning English, math, science as academic subject will not work out. We are talking about digital natives who does not want to get into math, science as a theoretical subject. They want to learn it as an applicable subject. Dealing and having conversations over the day, throughout the day with all these children on phone calls or maybe in the form of messages or meetings, I just got to understand only one thing, that these children want to learn the applicable part of the subject, not the
So
theoretical.
I would like,
Yes.
I would like to make a point here, sir. We have been talking about the responsibility of teachers, about policy makers, right, in designing pedagogy. But I think it is very important that as society, as parents, not just as parents, as stakeholders, everybody participates. A simple example: what kind of career do we want our children to have? Not just our students, our own children. What do we want them to become? Would we want them to become climate change activists? That is the need of the hour, to look at climate change. Or are we looking at automobile designers because that's a more lucrative career? So pedagogy, instruction, or changes in the curriculum, everything will fall in place and will be rooted more in ethics and values if as a society we get contribution from all. If the responsibility can't be laid on instructors and education institutes alone. So I think that is something that I really wanted to share, given that we have a lot of stakeholders here. Thank you so much for
Exactly.
this
And if
opportunity.
parents get involved into it, right now we can see that technology is not only a subject like computer science or anything, it has been integrated in all careers. So when it comes to activity classes like art integrated classes, so if the child is drawing or painting something, parents come and say, why are you wasting your time? Why don't you focus on English, math, science? You have to focus on JEE, you have to focus on this aptitude exams. But if we make the parents also equally trained over this point, I think that may help us to
If I
build
may make
a
if I may make one short observation. See, there are many things, when I was saying about echo chamber, please don't take it like, become defensive about it, because it's bound to happen. If you had 20 engineers in the room and you were talking engineering only, and if you don't have anybody connected with the environment, connected with society, with sociology, you won't have another perspective. But what I was saying was, see, many educational outcomes are assumed, or you take it as axiomatic. It is like parenting. Every parent has her own theory of parenting, and is absolutely sure that that is the formula which works. Education is like that, unfortunately. So if you take IITs and say, why are their outcomes better? They've got much better students. Their intake students are much smarter. If you put that bunch of students into any educational institution, you will get the same outcomes. So my point here is, we are talking about something where unfortunately, see, this is not like brain surgery or nuclear physics or something where the layman will not offer an opinion. Yeah, everybody thinks they understand education, everybody has an opinion on it, and which is one of the big problems. There is a lot of imprecision, and there is a lot of things which are assumed. So I'm only saying that the so-called good schools and good colleges and all that, there is a big assumption that they are good because of the pedagogy happening. That's a very questionable assumption. They, for whatever reason, over years have been able to attract the best students, or a much better quality students than others. So I'm saying this kind of thing can go on. So when there is a lot of lack of precision about measuring outcomes, you have a serious problem about how are you going to assess anything. So I think here, that is one observation. The other fundamental thing which I just wanted to say was, here is a disruption which has happened. And that was not so much the digital part of it. It was, a wise man said about human beings are very reasonable creatures. We will do the reasonable thing when we have no other choice. Okay. So here, education has been crying out for reform for the last half century. Nothing has happened. Now, COVID is going to make it happen, because kids cannot go to school. So you're forced to do something which despite all the technology being available all these years, nobody did it. Now you're forced to do it. Okay. So I'm saying it is not yet clear how this is going to change. I am sure that it is going to be far more profound than any one of us who participated in today's roundtable imagine it to be. It is not going to be tinkering. It is not going to be some Microsoft platform or some other platform or something. It is going to be so different. It is just like manufacturing is going to fundamentally change. In the same way, education will fundamentally change. It has to change. Otherwise, we are heading for a very serious crisis.
I just want to
take.
Yes,
sir, please.
I just want to put up another point. Maybe you all can explore that, the present era, students are different from the past. So why don't we include the students in the policy making, what they have to learn, how they have to learn, all these things, we are imposing. Maybe the learned people and the intellectuals, they prepare, NEP and other kind of things. Why not students be involved in at least, in some areas of policy making, so that, their aspirations, what they really want, how the things should happen in a school environment, all these things can be a little more, improved. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great.
I just want to add a
Sir, I
single
would just
point.
like to add in 30 seconds that it's already happening in many schools like ours. We do involve children in decision making. The classroom rules are proposed by the students, and we also teach them negotiation. If there's something that we don't want, we negotiate, they negotiate. So it's already there. Even when we are planning for annual days or some fest, we always have student representatives also who put in their not only their thoughts, but they actually run the program also. So they are decision makers to some extent at the school level. I really don't know how feasible it is to make them decision makers beyond the school level, but it's working well with them giving their inputs as to how the school can be run.
So I'll quickly go to Arjun and see. It's always easy to talk about changing the system, but within the system, what kind of changes can be brought, and what is your take on this?
So we basically run a skill discovery platform where we are not a solution provider or a content provider. We just try to understand how children do activities like pose subjective questions to understand how they approach an activity rather than looking at if they've completed the activity. We try to understand how they approach the activity to understand who they are, because we are always like when we give someone a problem to solve, we are always looking at if they've got the answers at 21.4, but instead try to look at how they've actually gone through to reaching that 26.8, which is wrong. So probably they might have deviated somewhere else, which might also be interesting thing to look at. I think we are also connected to the solution rather than the approach. And only when we look at the approach, we can understand how people think, how children think differently. The creative part, I think, probably comes there. I think that is one thing we need to really focus on to understand where children stand. Like most of the people here are trying to do it in one or the other way, but I think we are kind of missing out on the approach part, which you're not probably focusing on. Thank you.
Okay, so we have already overshot by 30 minutes. So it's a very lively discussion. We couldn't accommodate the views of everyone, and still lot left to be discussed. So what we feel is that our education system, of course, needs that kind of change which is required for the digital era coming. And of course, we need to have some kind of an entrepreneurial learning where they adapt to the situation. They try to change to this VUCA model and understand, and then rather than learn from the textbook alone. So we need to go a long way, but there are so many examples here and there. And maybe when we connect with the larger world, like rather than being in an echo chamber, might be more solutions should actually come up. So it was a nice session with so many participants. I think it is the first time that we had so much participation from across the country. And I thank you all, and definitely you share your thoughts with us. This will be published in our Pallikudam magazine, and you are welcome to still tell us your views on these areas. So I thank you all once again.